So you would have found cheap bars, gambling dens, fist fights, brothels, any kind of vice you can think of would have been here. So of course none of you people would have, well, maybe some of you, I'm not pointing any fingers, but nowadays probably the biggest tourist attraction in the city. Lige nu befinder vi os i Nyhavn, som trods navnet ikke er særlig ny. Den blev udgravet ved håndkraft af soldater og krigsfanger for 350 år siden for at forbinde Kongens Nytorv nede bag ved jer med havnen herude bag ved mig. Senere hen så blev det sådan et rigtig skummelt sted. Det var her, hvor søfolkene brugte alle deres penge. Så det var sådan Københavns Red Light District. Der var fyldt med billige barer og bordeller og slåskampe og tatovørforretninger, og jeg skal komme efter jer. Så det var selvfølgelig ikke et sted, hvor pæne mennesker som jeg kom. Og måske nogle af jer, men jeg skal nok lade være med at nævne navne. Og det er selvfølgelig udviklet sig til nok byens største turistattraktion. Der kommer rigtig mange mennesker, bare i københavnere. Som jeg sagde, masser af broer. Her kommer den første og den laveste, så bliver endelig siddende og pas på hovederne. As I said, lots and lots of bridges. Here comes the first and the lowest. So please stay seated and mind your heads, everyone. Thank you. Sometimes the tide is so high we can't get under this bridge, so we have to start the tours out here. But for every 12 people on board, we're 1 centimeter lower in the water, so thank you very much, everyone. Nogle gange så er tidevandet så højt, at vi bliver nødt til at starte turen på den anden side af broen her. Men det gik fint i dag. Vi er på hver 12 mennesker ombord ligger vi 1 centimeter lavere i vandet, så det hjælper lidt alt sammen. Som I måske har bemærket, så er der jo masser af husbåde i København. Nogle af dem ligger her. Vi kommer til at se mange flere senere hen. En del af dem det er faktisk gamle færger. Vi har jo 400 øer i Danmark, så masser af færger, der sejler rundt, og nogle gange, når de bliver sendt på pension, så ender de som husbåde. You may notice we have a lot of houseboats in Copenhagen. You'll see plenty more in some of the other canals later on the tour. Some of them are actually old ferries. We have about 400 islands in Denmark, so lots of ferries crisscrossing the waters. And sometimes when they retire, these ferries become houseboats here. Most of them are privately owned. Some of them are restaurants, and there's even a theatre on one of the houseboats. That's a very creative way of preserving these old vessels instead of just chopping them up. In a few moments, we'll make a left turn to get into the harbour itself. And just up here on the left corner, you see a large glass building with a big brown cube on top of it and a big yellow poster. This is the Royal Playhouse from 2008. They started up with a somewhat Danish performance. It was Shakespeare's Hamlet. Of course, Shakespeare is British, but Hamlet takes place at Helsingør Castle, 1 hour north of Copenhagen. So if you have the time, that's a very good place for a day trip. It's on the World Heritage List. When they designed this building, apparently they forgot the glass is transparent, because up there on the first floor are the changing rooms for the actors for everyone to see. So when we pass it, you'll notice inside something looking a bit like shower curtains. They were put up later to give the actors some privacy. Den store glasbygning her ved hjørnet med kassen på toppen, det er Det Kongelige Skuespilhus fra 2008. Da man tegnede bygningen, der var man åbenbart glemt af glas, det kan man jo se igennem. For heroppe på første scene er omklædningsrummet til skuespillerne, som vi alle sammen kan følge med hernede fra vandet. Så I kan måske se inde bag ved glasset, at der er sådan noget, det ligner lidt badeforhæng på hænger derinde. Så det bliver sat op senere for at give dem noget privatliv, for de skifter tøj, hvilket er jo altså fuldt ud forståeligt. Det er bare sådan lidt spøjs detalje. And speaking of the arts, coming up on the right-hand side in front of us is a large grey building with a big flat roof. It's the Royal Opera from 2005. It cost 2.5 billion Danish kroner to build, but luckily for the city it was a gift from the shipping tycoon Maersk. It's one of the largest container shipping companies in the world. In the big auditorium there's room for 1,700 people, and the whole room is shaped like a big wooden heart to symbolize the love of music. If you're not in love with opera and classical music, you can also come here in the summertime for the diving competitions. From the roof, that's a jump of 26 meters into the water. They say that 26 meters is about the maximum height from which you can jump into water without hurting yourself. Personally, I could hurt myself just from the edge, so I'm not taking part. It's only for professionals. And if you've got vertigo, it's very difficult to watch when they jump. water here is about 10 meters deep, so that's why we can do it. Lige til højre ligger Operaen fra 2005. Det kostede 2,5 milliarder kroner at bygge, men heldigvis for København var det jo en gave for Mærsk. I det store sal derinde er der plads til 700 mennesker, og hele salen er formet som et stort hjerte, et træ, som symboliserer kærlighed til musik. Er man ikke lige forelsket i opera og klassisk musik, så kan man også komme op med sommeren, når der er udspringskonkurrencer op på taget. Det er så en lille hop på 26 meter, så det er altså udelukkende for professionelle. Vandet her omkring 10 meter dybt, så det er derfor, vi kan lade sig gøre. Taget er i øvrigt på størrelse med 2 fodboldbaner, så det er simpelthen stort. The roof is about the size of 2 soccer fields, so it's pretty big. On to something very different. Also on the right hand side, but in the distance you see a grey building with a big chimney. There's water vapor coming out of it right now. This is Copenhagen, which is one of the most efficient and green garbage incinerators in the world. They burn through 600,000 tons of garbage, 600,000 tons of garbage every year that cannot be recycled. It's not like we have to import it from other countries because we don't make enough garbage here. The whole point is turning it into energy. It becomes heating and electricity for 200,000 homes in Copenhagen, one of them being my apartment. It's also become quite a tourist attraction because you can go skiing on the roof all year round. There's an artificial ski slope up there with ski lifts and everything. So have you brought your skis to Copenhagen? No? Well, you can rent them out there, so there's no excuse not to try. There's also the highest climbing wall in Europe at 85 meters. No? Well, if you're a chicken like me, just use the stairs or the elevator. Free of charge, one of the best views in the city. I cannot recommend it enough. Den store brobygning herude til højre med det skrå tag og skorstenen med vanddamp, det er Amager Bakke, som er et af verdens mest grønne og effektive forbrændingsanlæg. De brænder skæmt 600.000 tons affald hvert år, og det bliver forvandlet til energi, altså varme og elektricitet, til 200.000 hjem i København for den her lejlighed. Så der er også blevet ret berømt til de der akustiske dark på taget, hvis man har lyst til at prøve det. Der er også Europas højeste klatrevæg på 85 meter, og elevator til alle også, der ikke gør det andet. Virkelig formidabel udsigt. Coming into view on the right hand side, you see a very yellow building. Just next to the building is a short yellow tower with a green roof and a big pointy black thing sticking out of the roof. This is the old mast crane from the early 1700s, and even though it's more than 300 years old, it still works. Some historians and engineers tested it a couple of years ago, and it can lift at least 20 tons. But that was also needed. Those masts for the ships in the old days could be up to 40 meters high. So just imagine the kind of precision work needed to get a mast on board a ship on the water in the wind using that contraption. Her til højre ligger der et meget lille hus, der viser huset et utetårn med rødt tag, og så sådan en stor ting, der ud af taget. Det er den gamle mastekram, der starter på 1700-tallet. Og selvom den er mere end 300 år gammel, så virker den altså stadigvæk. For nogle år siden var der nogle historikere og ingeniører, der testede den for at se, hvor meget den kan være, og den kan være mindst 20 tons. Det har der så også været behov for, fordi vi skal fokusere de der master på båden eller på skibene i gamle dage. Masterne kan være op til 40 meter høje, så de har altså været mega dumme at få huset på plads. To the left of the grey naval ship, you see the Danish flag on a flagpole. The Danish flag is called Canal, which means coloured cloth, and it's the oldest national flag in the world still in use. According to legend, it fell during the battle in Estonia. It fell from the sky in 1219, and it secured victory for the Danish army, and it's been our national flag ever since. The area around the flag is called Battery 60s, and it's one of the last remaining naval areas in the city. The cannons you see on the ramparts, they still work because we're still afraid of Sweden. But when Sweden is not invading, they used to mark sunrise and sunset in the harbour, so all the ships know when to hoist and lower the flag. However, there is a deal with the neighbours in this area that the sun never rises before 8 a.m. It's not a problem during the winter time, but if they were to fire the guns at sunrise in the end of June, that would be at 4 o'clock in the morning. And apparently some people don't really enjoy it, so they'll wait until 8 o'clock. Det grønne område inde på højre hånd af fladet, det er det område, der hedder Battery 60, som er det sidste tilbageværende flådeområde i København. Kanonerne, som I kan se, de virker stadigvæk, det tager svenskerne væk med, og ellers bliver de også brugt til at markere solopgang og solopgang i havnen, så alle skibet til flåden skal rejse sig. This next area in front of us and on the right hand side looks very industrial. It used to be one of the largest shipyards in the world. Now it's a much more cultural area. We have the biggest street food market up here in the city, a big hall for exhibitions of modern art. These color containers are very creative student apartments, and it's a really cool mix of industry and culture. So if you want to see what Copenhagen Harbor looked like 30 years ago, come for a walk out here. Og jeg ser jo her på højre hånd, det var der, hvor de store gamle skibsværk burmeister i Vanlå i gamle dage. Det gik fallit i 1993, så det er længe siden, der har været bygget skibe her i området. Det er blevet meget mere kulturelt. Vi har byens største streetfood-marked herude. Der er studenterboliger, koncertsteder, sportssteder. Der er også et meget stort udstillingshaller i de gamle svejserhaller med moderne kunst. Så det er sådan et ret fedt område, hvor man oplever, hvordan industri og kultur mødes. So you weren't that keen on skiing and climbing. What about bungee jumping anyway? The black and white crane here on the right hand side is used for bungee jumping. When it first opened, they had this special offer. You could get a jump for free if you did it naked. That was a dumb idea, because inside all Danish people is a virtue. We love good offers and discounts, and we're not very shy people. So they had to cancel after 2 days because we didn't make any money. Den sorte og hvide kran herude på højre side bliver brugt til lakridsspring. Da den åbnede i sin tid, så var der et travtilbud om, at man kunne få spring gratis, hvis man gjorde det nøgen. Danskerne er jo kendt på at elske tilbud og ikke være specielt generende, så det måtte de altså holde op med efter, for det de tjente overhovedet ikke nogen penge på det, fordi der var så mange unge mennesker derude. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching the smallest highlight in the world. I give you the Little Mermaid. So tiny you can hardly see her yet, but we'll get closer. She's been sitting there on her rock since 1913 when the owner of the Carlsberg Brewery fell in love with a ballerina at the Royal Theatre. And even persuaded the ballerina to be the model, until she realized she had to be in the nude in front of an artist in 1913. That was scandalous. So she said, you can only do me from the neck up. And that's what they did. From the neck down, it's the sculptor's own wife who was the model. So all is proper, all is moral. Havfruen har siddet her på sin stil til 1913, da ejeren af Carlsberg blev forelsket i en ballerina på det kongelige teater. En overbeviste også ballerinaen om, at hun skulle sidde model lige indtil hun fandt ud, at hun skulle være nøgen. Det var ganske skandaløst. Så hun sagde, så bliver det kun for Hansen, og det gjorde de også for Hansen og ned. Så er det Edvard Eriksen, altså kunstnerens egen kone, der sad model, så der ikke opstod nogen skandale. We sometimes hear from our international visitors that they are a little underwhelmed by the mermaid. We often hear that they're surprised that she's so small. And we're a little surprised because it's in the name, right? The Little Mermaid. And there she is, just the size of a mermaid. And by the way, she's not the most underwhelming tourist attraction in Europe. There's a list for that. She's only number 2. The most underwhelming tourist attraction in Europe is in Brussels and Belgium, the mannequin fish statue. Our mermaid, she's only number 2. If you do come out here for the mermaid and you feel a little disappointed, go for a walk in the grassy area behind her. Those are the ramparts of the Copenhagen fortress from the 1600s. It's star-shaped, it's got a moat, it's got drawbridges and everything, and really nice area. It's still military area. It houses the secret service of the Danish military, but it's open for everyone. So if you want to meet a spy, that's the place to go. Or if you even want to be a spy. Last year they had an ad in the paper looking for new spies. They're looking for regular people. So if you feel regular and want to do something else, you might go for a job interview in there. Jeg skal ikke kede vores danske passagerer med historier om hærværk mod havfruen, fordi den kender jeg godt. Men jeg kan sige, at et hemmeligt sted i Danmark findes den originale støbeform til den lille havfrue. Der er ikke særlig mange mennesker, der ved, hvor det er. Og det er også meningen, det skal være på den måde. Så hvis hun svømmer til havs en dag, eller nogle af passagererne her tager hende med hjem som souvenir, så kan hun altså genskabe fuldstændig, som hun sidder der. Det var også det, man gjorde dengang. Den ene af de gange, hun fik hugget hovedet af, men man aldrig fandt hovedet igen. Der kunne man støbe hovedet igen fra den originale støbeform. Just a quick look at this. Just a quick look at this very small airport on the right hand side. The seaplane goes between Copenhagen and Aarhus, which is the second largest city. It's about a 1-hour flight. Den lille vandflyver her til højre, den flyver mellem Aarhus og København. Det er en flyvetur på cirka en times tid. Coming into view on the right hand side, you see this white building with very blue windows. This is the headquarters of the Maersk container shipping company I mentioned earlier. It's one of the largest of its kind in the world and one of the largest companies in Denmark for it worldwide. The symbol, you can see it on the white scaffold, and the symbol is a blue flag with a white 7-pointed star. And they say that the 7 points represent the 7 seas, which of course makes perfect sense for a shipping company. But I have a friend who used to work for them, and they do have a reputation of being a little old-fashioned and very demanding of their staff. And she told me that the 7 points means that if you work for Maersk, you work 7 days a week. Den hvide bygning her på højre hånd med de meget blå vinduer, det er Maersk Copenhagen, altså det her store containerrederi, som er en af de største i verden. De har omkring 150.000 ansatte globalt. Deres symbol, det er et blåt flag med en hvid 7-takkes stjerne, som vi sikkert har set på container rundt omkring i verden. Og de siger selv, at de her 7 takker repræsenterer de 7 have, hvilket jo giver rigtig god mening, når det er et shippingselskab. Jeg har nogle veninder, som har arbejdet for dem, og hun påstår altså, at de 7 takker betyder, at hvis man arbejder på Maersk, så arbejder man 7 dage om ugen. Og det stadigvæk er sådan, det ved jeg ikke. Men det siger nok lidt om, hvordan det var for måske et 10 eller 2 siden. Men det har nok ændret sig. We have a passenger who is a descendant of Swedish migrants, and they left from Denmark on the ships, on a sailing ship to the US in 1855. So it's just pointing something out. It's not like he has a private tour. So these 3 brick buildings are the colonial warehouses from the 1700s, and they were used to store goods from the Danish colonies, like rum and sugar and tobacco. Back then, Denmark was the 7th largest slave nation in the world, just after the US. Many ships would force somewhere between 100 and 200,000 people from West Africa into slavery in the Caribbean. De 3 murstensbygninger, vi sejler forbi nu, det er de gamle pakhuse, hvor man opbevarede varer fra kolonierne. Altså sådan noget som rom og sukker og tobak, også pelsværk og træn fra Grønland. På det tidspunkt var Danmark faktisk verdens 7. største slavenation i efter USA. Danske skibe tvang i stedet 102.000 mennesker fra Vestafrika over i slaveriet i Caribien. I'm coming into view now. You see some white buildings with black roofs and chimneys. That's the Royal Palace of Amalienborg. It wasn't always a royal residence. It was built as 4 separate mansions for 4 different noble families. But then in 1794, the Royal Palace of Christiansborg burned to the ground, and the king had nowhere to stay. And of course, he was an absolute monarch with his own army, so he could do whatever he pleased. So he kicked out the nobles and moved in, and the royals are still here. Our new king, Frederick, and Queen Mary, they live in the mansion on the right-hand side here towards us with the 4 chimneys. The flag is up, so if you find that the king is in residence, they just arrived back from a state visit in France. And our former sovereign, Queen Margrethe, who abdicated last year, she lives in the mansion on the left-hand side with the 5 chimneys. She needs an extra chimney because she's a chain smoker. Så nu kigger vi lige ind på Amalienborg Slot, som er kongefamiliens residens. Det har det ikke altid været. Det er egentlig bygget som 4 separate palæer til 4 forskellige adelsfamilier i starten af 1700-tallet. Men da Christiansborg brændte ned i 1794, så blev kongen hjemløs, og han var jo enevældig, så han kunne gøre, hvad der passede ham, så han sparkede de adelige ud, og de kongelige flyttede ind, og det er jo stadigvæk. Frederik og Mary, de bor i palæet til højre her ud mod vandet, med de 4 skorstene og flaget. Flaget er oppe, det betyder, at kongen er hjemme. De har lige været på statsbesøg i Frankrig, men er kommet hjem. Og dronning Margrethe, hun bor over i palæet til venstre med de 5 skorstene. Der er nogen, der påstår, at hun har en ekstra skorsten, fordi hun ryger som en. Just behind the palace is the dome of the Marble Church. It's the biggest dome in Scandinavia. It stood as a ruin for 150 years because they ran out of money, but then in the late 1800s, a wealthy businessman decided to pay for it. Lige bag ved Amalienborg ligger Marmorkirken, som har den største kuppel i Skandinavien. Den stod egentlig som en ruin i 150 år, fordi man løb tør på penge, men så i sidste 1800-tallet var der en rig forretningsmand, der besluttede sig for at betale for at gøre den færdig. And on the left-hand side, you see some quite new yellow brick buildings. A lot of people call them the Toblerone buildings. Personally, I think they look like handbags, but taste is individual. They stand on what is called Paper Island, because in the old days, the Danish newspapers had warehouses here containing the big rolls of paper for printing the papers. So yeah, that's why it's called Paper Island. Before these buildings came up, we had the big street food market I mentioned earlier, along with a lot of small galleries and small creative businesses. But when this was built, they had to move further north. And that's an ongoing debate in the city because Copenhagen is growing. We need more housing, and when an area like this is so developed, we get money for new metro stations and bike bridges and stuff that people like. And then on the other hand, people also like to preserve some areas as they were a bit like the old shipyards. So it always causes a lot of debate, especially this year because we have local elections coming up. Herinde på venstre hånd ligger der nogle temmelig nye bygninger, som af mange bliver kaldt for Toblerone-bygningerne. Personligt synes jeg, de ligner håndtasker, men smag er jo individuelt. De står på en ø, der hedder Papirøen, og den hedder det, fordi i gamle dage havde de danske aviser havde pakhuse her fyldt med de store ruller med papir til at trykke aviserne på. Og det navn, det hænger altså bare ved. Der bliver bygget rigtig meget i København i øjeblikket. Byen vokser med 11 personer om dagen. Så der bliver også snakket meget om billige boliger. Det er ikke lige den her. Jeg læste, at den dyreste bolig herinde for nylig blev solgt for 75 millioner kroner. Så det er altså ikke lige gennemsnitskøbenhavneren, der bor herinde. Men på den anden side, når sådan et område bliver solgt, så får kommunen penge til nye metrostationer og til cykelbroer og den slags. Så det er noget, der altid skaber meget debat i byen med nybyggeri. Nu laver vi et venstresving for at komme ind på Christianshavn, som jeg opkaldt efter Christian 4. Han var meget misundelig på Amsterdam, fordi det var en rig by med rige købmænd, så han tænkte, det er der på heroppe. Jeg kan da sagtens lave en kopi af Amsterdam, og svært kan det være. Så han gravede en kanal og byggede nogle huse, men købmændene i Amsterdam foretrak altså Holland, så de blev dernede. Der var ikke nogen, der ville flytte hele vejen fra København på den anden side af landet, og hele vejen herud, indtil kongen lovede ingen skatter, ingen husleje i 12 år. Så flyttede folk. We're now entering an area of the harbour which is called Christian's Harbour. It's named after Christian IV, the longest reigning monarch in Danish history. This is 1588-1648. He was very envious of Amsterdam. It was a rich city full of rich merchants paying a lot of taxes. So he thought, I can do it in Amsterdam. How hard can it be? So he dug a canal, built some canal houses. But of course the Dutch preferred Amsterdam, and no one wanted to move all the way from Copenhagen across the water, all the way out here, until he promised no rent and no taxes for 12 years. Then people moved, and now it's probably the most attractive and expensive area of the city if you want to buy an apartment. This area, the next canal, is very residential, full of houseboats, lots of people living close to the water. So I won't be using the mic in there except for the bridge warnings. Otherwise the people here would have to listen to the same stories every 15 minutes. So out of respect for them, I'll put down the mic. Kanalen, vi skal ind i nu, der bor rigtig mange mennesker meget tæt på vandet, også på husbåden. Så der kommer jeg til at lægge mikrofonen fra mig. Lige med undtagelse af, når jeg skal advare mod broen, for det skal jeg nemlig. Men ellers så må I bare læne jer tilbage og nyde turen ind igennem. Af hensyn til naboerne, så bruger vi nemlig ikke mikrofonen, ellers så kommer de til at lytte til de samme historier. I løbet af sommeren vil det være hver 10. minut, så jeg kommer kun til at bruge den, når jeg advarer mod broer. Sådan en kommer der nu. Lige ind i siden af pas på hovederne. Her comes the first of 4 bridges in this canal, so please remain seated and mind your heads, everyone. Thank you. See if I can answer or just make something up if you want to know the difference.
tour.